Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. It has been a hot minute because I haven't uploaded the third episode of Terraria Bus Guide in God knows how long. Since then we have I don't know, we got 6 times the subscriber count, which is amazing, just absolutely amazing. But the support on the Terraria series wasn't as great. So I would really appreciate if you could leave a like if you want to see more of this content. If the support is not good, I will just quit it because I just know that it just won't work. But if you want to see more of this, definitely let me know by hitting that like button. And yeah, enjoy the video. And yeah, thank you all again. Have a good one. Congratulations, you've made it halfway through pre-hard mode, and the next boss is the Queen Bee. Queen Bee can be summoned via 2 methods. First, and for both of the methods you have to actually locate their hive. If you go into the underground jungle, you can see these huge hives, like absolutely huge, made out of hive blocks. Literally they call it hive blocks, and have honey within them. In them you can find the larva. Dealing any type of damage to that larva will immediately cause it to explode and start the boss fight. That is the first method to start the boss fight. The second method is to use an abomination, which requires 5 honey blocks, 5 hive blocks. It requires 1 jar of honey and 1 stinger to make an abomination, and you can make it by your hand. You don't even need an altar, unlike the previous ones. But remember, although you can fight Queen Bee anywhere, it is extremely recommended to fight her in the underground jungle. If you fight her in the surface jungle, she will enrage and be extremely faster and extremely deadly. But if you fight her anywhere else, it will be a challenge to even the best players. So don't do it, don't fight it. And if you teleport out hoping she will despawn, she won't, she will follow you. As for the setup, for melee, now that you have beaten the 2 evil biome bosses, or 1 in your case, you have access to Hellstone. Mining the Hellstone, now you can make yourself the Flamerang for melee, and the Volcano, it was previously named Fire Greatsword. So use Fire Greatsword to deal with the small bee minions while you do damage with the Flamerang. For rangers, the best actual method of dealing damage is using your Molten Fury against this boss. As for mages, you can go ahead and use the Space Gun paired with the Meteorite Armor to take this boss down. Remember, Meteorite Armor gives a boost to Space Gun. However, if you are using any other classes, I heavily recommend either equipping the Shadow Armor or getting the Crimson Armor. And as for the Summoner, you don't really have a choice, you're still with the Snapthorn plus the Flink Staff. As for the arena, I recommend clearing out a big area close to the hive and starting the boss fight there, making 2 or 3 platforms very slightly apart from each other, so much so that you can actually jump it with the frog legs. Will be pretty useful as the Queen Bee dashes towards you, so that's nice. You can also use a campfire and heart lantern if you feel like it, and if you think that's not enough, if you really want to increase your odds, you can also use a bat statue to boost your defense. Also, use the honey in the boss, the actual hive, to your advantage. Dipping yourself in honey will cause yourself to get a massive health regen boost for 30 seconds even after dipping out of the honey. But remember, honey is very sticky, so only do it once the boss is away. As for the strategies, if you are struggling with the boss fight, I heavily recommend just farming hornets for Beezor, as Beezor allows you to obtain, well, basically Beezor is an accessory that grants immunity to poison, the biggest damage buff that Queen Bee has. For this actual example, I didn't use Beezor to show you that you can actually beat the boss without using the Beezor. But basically, you have to watch out for her dashes. The most devastating thing about Queen Bee is her dashes. So when she goes into horizontal, parallel horizontally towards you, just jump up to a higher platform or drop down. Basically, you want to avoid it by going to switching your platform. That's the most important thing. Once it starts to summon the bees, that is where you want to get the big damage in. If you are melee and using Volcano, that is big rip for the portal, and basically you can do a lot of damage. Yeah, basically try to avoid the stingers, and if you're struggling, just get the Beezor. Queen Bee has the second highest drops in the game, the first one being Plantera, which we'll talk about in the second part of this video. But out of the drops that she has, there are some of them that are interesting. To the melee players, the Beekeeper might be interesting, to the mage, the Bee Gun, and to the rangers, definitely the Bee's Knee. I say out of the 3 weapons that this boss drops, the Bee's Knee is potentially the best, turning your arrows into bees, into friendly bees. That, and the fact this boss, it drops bee nades, which we're gonna use for further prank in the game. But basically, bee nades act similar to the Bee's Knee. They're just grenades that explode and release friendly bees, and they're extremely powerful against the particularly interesting boss, which we'll talk about later. Finally, in expert mode, Queen Bee is much more aggressive and is much more faster, tries to ram you much more, and now contact with her causes you to get poisoned as well, meaning that you're going to need Beezor even more than before. But you can avoid her dashes via a very simple method. Just look when she is trying to level herself with you. Most of the time she's just above you trying to shoot stingers or summon her bees while staying completely stationary. However, if you see her lowering her attitude, she's either following you lowering your attitude, or if you're just in the same on the same platform while she is lowering her attitude, she is most likely trying to ram you, so you know that, and you have time to actually react to it. Her expert drop is the Hive Pack, which boosts the friendly bees, and if you remember what I told you about the drops from Queen Bee, it's very important as it will make them basically stronger, deal more damage, faster, and completely just better. Next up is one of the slowest, if not the slowest, boss fights in the entire game, taking about 5 to 10 minutes to actually do. I was actually lucky and I actually set a new record for myself with this footage, taking the boss down, which is the new crossover boss, the Deerclops. Now you can actually fight this guy after taking down the Eye of Cthulhu, but I recommend it after taking out at least one of the evil biome bosses, as it gives you a lot of better equipment and it makes the boss fight so much easier. There are 2 methods you can spawn it in. First off, you can go to the ice biome during the blizzard, and upon the midnight, basically exactly at 12 PM, it will immediately get spawned in. The second method is, the first method actually has to be in the blizzard, remember that. The second method, you have to use a deer thing, which is crafted with basically 1 lens, 3 flink spur, and 5 evil biome ore, so Crimtane or Demonite, at an altar and used in the ice biome. As for the setup, for melee, I believe that weapons like Enchanted Sword or basically spears like the Watered Fork will work really well with the strategy that I'm going to show you. As for the Ranger, the previously mentioned Mortal Fury is more than enough to take this guy down, but if you want to, you can easily take him down with the Bee's Knee as well. For the Mage, you can go ahead and use the Space Gun with the full Meteorite armor, and for the Summoner, now you can use the new Hornet minion plus the Snapdoor to take this boss down. As for the arena, you want to make 2 long platforms in your ice biome, The first one being about 10 blocks above ground, and the second one being about 20 blocks above the first one. If you fancy, you can add a bunch of campfires or hot lanterns or even bat statues to increase your odds, or just drink potions that you found throughout the game. Just brew potions if you know how to. As for how to take down this boss, basically when you want to deal damage to this boss, head to the bottom platform. Never touch the ground. Basically you want to make him fall on the ground. If he is on your platforms, just drop down and he will follow you, and then jump back on your platforms. He shouldn't be able to follow you. When you want to deal damage to him, go on the bottom platform and start dealing damage to him via whatever method you have. And when you are actually low on HP, retreat to the top one. One of the methods I found really useful against this boss, because this boss constantly makes you slow down, is to just be a bit ahead of him, just like 1 or 2 blocks parallel in front of him, and that causes him to start this animation where he launches the rocks up into the air. However, once he does that, immediately switch sides and rinse and repeat. If you are standing above him, he will summon a bunch of shadow hands to take you out, and that will do a lot of damage to you, so you don't want that in the long term. However, if you can manage to pull this off, you can actually defeat the boss pretty fast. Finally, as this boss is a crossover content boss, it's not going to have any good drops. However, we have the Chester as a pet, which is basically a pet that allows you to store your items like a movable chest, which I guess is useful somewhat. And basically, if you are a summoner player, the Hordius Shootius is the only pre-hard mode sentry, but I doubt that's actually I doubt that being useful. But do what you must. You can grind them for it, but I say it's not worth it. Finally, in expert mode, the deerclops will periodically summon shadow hands, and they basically try to ram you or just spin in place. They will come for you slowly or fast, and as the boss's HP drops, they get faster and faster, and they also get summoned more often. So be on the lookout for that. The boss expert drop is the bone helm, which is useless. It's an accessory that, upon equipping it, will cause shadow hands to deal damage to nearby enemies. So it's good for AFK farming, but in real combat situation, that's really worthless because of the very low damage that the hands do.